All right, we are Synergy Bonus, three guys that like to sit around, drink, and talk about gaming.
There's not enough alcohol some days.
Some days.
No, there's not.
Today is
Today
speak for yourself.
I could easily just do this. So,
you go.
you know.
Aha!
Aha!
And today we're drinking Maker's Mark.
Yep. Somebody had a long week. Anyhow.
It's going to be a long week for a long time. It's been a long week since October.
Somebody's had a long year.
Yeah. Anyways.
So, talking about long things, today we're going to be talking about one of the oldest and most recognizable and prominent RPGs.
Final Fantasy. Like, that's it. Final Fantasy.
Fantasy.
For the NES and Famicom.
But you repeat yourself.
Aha!
I know.
Came out in 1987 if you were in Japan, 1990 for the rest of us.
And if you were lucky enough to be a subscriber to Nintendo Power, you would get a free Final Fantasy Player's Guide to aid you in your quest. You paid for the subscription, but the game guide was free.
Which was very nice marketing.
It was
for
very
Nintendo.
nice marketing.
And for Square at the time.
Yep, and they did it with only a few other games. They did it with Mario 3, Ninja Gaiden 2, and a football game.
Yep. And as we said, this was on the Nintendo Entertainment System at the time, but since then it's been ported to basically every, system and platform out there.
Including your phone.
Yeah, if you can't find a copy of this game to play, you aren't trying.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta tell you, the newer versions look just absolutely stunning because they kept with the 2D and just gave it a nice...
I can't speak to the music, how they updated that.
Music's great.
Okay.
Music is absolutely great. It's not like what they did with Secret of Mana. The music is superb. I cannot complain.
Or what they did with FF4.
Yeah, I can't complain about FF1.
So Final Fantasy, at its core, is meant to be a computer emulator of a Dungeons & Dragons campaign.
It took me a number of years to realize that FF1 really was Dungeons & Dragons, essentially.
Mm-hmm. It's basically the same setup. You get you and your friends together, roll up some characters, you get you and three of your friends together, and choose your classes.
Yeah.
Open on the map, walk into town, people are immediately talking about the king is looking for help with the princess who's been kidnapped.
Welcome to Corneria.
I like swords.
Welcome to Corneria.
This is a well. You may think there's something more to it, but it's just a well.
Why don't you tell us about the story aside from the princess?
So you start with rescuing the princess, and once you're done with that, which is like the first dungeon, so you know that there's something else bigger going on here, the game immediately starts going off about how we're looking for the Light Warriors, which are these four dudes who happen to each be carrying a magical sphere that used to glow with an ancient power and has now been dimmed and darkened, and the world is rotting because of it. Conveniently, that happens to be the same four schmucks who just saved the princess.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you something real quick here. I'm going to just interject.
Do so.
The newer versions of the game, I'm thinking PS1 and up, because, those technically are the newer ones. Mm-hmm. It starts with the land is rotting, the wind is...
Well, it starts with that in the opening crawl in this one, too.
Yeah, but they actually, in the remakes, they do that before you get to the bridge crawl.
Yeah, in this one, it's before you push start. Yep.
Oh,
Remember how a lot of the old Nintendo games had the background... there's more in the handbook, the guidebook.
I guess I never...
Instruction manual, that's what...
I never waited waited on that game in particular.
I'm shocked. This is my shock face.
That is a shock top.
I'm going to tell you... My first experience with RPGs was this and Dragon Quest. I'm like, I don't like RPGs forever. Played Final Fantasy...
He's fickle, this one.
4 and 6, and...
You're a little older at that point. You know a little more what you're doing.
It was kind of explained to me a little bit more how they work, because I'm like, I gotta hit things. What do you mean I gotta take my turn? And I realized that taking my turn is much better than just hitting things, because I can strategize.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I came out, I just knew if I hit A, I made enemies bad dead. This game is harder than landing a plane in Top Gun.
Ask him if he could do it now.
Only if I'm drunk as all fuck.
As we said, you have a party of 4 characters that you can mix and match however you want. There are 6 different classes, and you can double up, triple up, or have one of whatever.
And each of these classes has an upgraded version that you get later on in the game through a quest.
It did introduce the concept of prestige classes, yes.
Well, before D&D did.
Yep.
By about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So your basic classes, the rundown, are your frontline fighter, called suitably enough, the fighter.
In Japan, it was warrior.
Warrior. And he's all about, swords and shields and heavy armor. And he's just there to be a wall and take hits. And early in the game, he's probably going to be your primary damage dealer as well. He's followed by the thief, which is kind of his opposite. He's all about lightweight, fast moves. Don't hit me, don't hit me. Oh, you hit me, I'm dead. For the whole first half of the game.
Because this is before they introduced back row.
Correct. Then you have the black belt, who is the glass cannon of the game. His whole shtick is that...
don't hit me, please don't hit me. Okay, now you die.
Yep. Although, unlike the thief, he doesn't have the ridiculously high agility stat to make so that he dodges and evades more often.
He just hits like a freight train.
When he gets his turn.
Yeah.
If he gets
and
his
then
turn.
you have the three mages, the traditional black and white mages, one for dealing damage spells and debuffs to the enemies, one for dealing the healing spells and buffs to the party, black and white respectively. And then my personal favorite, the red mage.
I like this class too.
Which is unfortunate because in the grand scheme of things in the long game,
it's not very good.
The worst class in the game, really. And he's your jack of all trades. He casts a little bit of the white spells, a little bit of the black spells. He puts on armor that's not quite as good as that of the fighter. He uses weapons that aren't right up until about the first Archfiend. He uses weapons that are the same as the fighter, but
he just can't use the axes.
Yeah. He doesn't have the same strength stat either, so he's not going to be doing nearly as much damage that way.
He literally becomes master of none.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bard without the inspire confidence and bardic performance.
Pretty much.
I'd actually prefer that bard.
And like we said, about halfway through the game, depending on how the order you do things and how you explore things and how good you are at getting through dungeons before you're the appropriate level, you undergo a trial, and it allows you to prestige class into the knight, which is your upgraded fighter. Same idea, though they add a level of white magic, so you get sort of paladin qualities. You get the ninja, who's your upgraded thief. Continues with the whole I'm really fast, I hit you hard, please don't hit me, oh you can't hit me, and you get some black magic to begin with. Black belt becomes the master, and
at this point in the game he's doing more damage than the fighter.
As long as you don't have any weapons equipped, that's the caveat.
And he's not face first into the dirt.
Right, and there's nothing that tells you that you're not supposed to equip any weapons for him. You have to kind of figure it out on your own. So, like on one of my first playthroughs, I went through with a black belt all the way to the fourth Archfiend.
Wow.
With him equipped with staves and nunchucks. This is useless.
Not gonna lie, it was the same for me. So. But I don't think I got that far. I think I got to the second Archfiend.
Yeah. Whereas I remember my friend's dad, when we were playing, because his dad actually would play games with his son a lot, told us, after a certain level, unequip the black belt. He becomes better.
Yep. And he does.
That's where I got the thing where I say, after level 8, he becomes decent, just don't equip him with weapons.
And in the original version of this, the black belt master suffers because his stats drastically change. Instead of getting 4 points on the level up for certain defenses, he only gets 1 point.
Yeah, one of the major perks of prestige classing is that your stat growth explodes exponentially, and you get much stronger much more quickly, except the master.
Which goes with the monk class being a glass cannon.
Yep. I'm sure it made sense, but it really throws game balance in the long run.
Mm.
And as we said, there are all a bunch of different ways you could mix and match these. Generally, it's one fighter, a mage of each color, and then...
And the mages, all 3 of them become wizard versions of them. But yeah, you can mix and match, you can have doubles.
Nintendo famously put out the 4 White Mage Challenge.
Yep, in that game guide that I mentioned that Nintendo Power put out, 4 White Mages. Actually, the the comic strip webcomic, 8-Bit Theater, Black Mage says, he's reading it, 4 White Mages, that'll never work. I personally...
rub on that.
I will not
stick with XXX.
Try it, honestly. I will not try the challenge.
I did. I got about as far as the vampire and I went, fuck it.
Or you could try the solo red mage challenge.
That was actually a little easier.
Because he has more hit points and you can actually equip
other stuff. Yeah. You're not using hammers the whole way through, which deal a great deal of damage but have shitty accuracy on the character with the lowest agility in the game. Because that's a combination you want.
This game actually deals with time travel
A little
as
bit.
well. And before I'd actually played this, I'm like, why hasn't Final Fantasy dealt with time travel? Because I'd played Chrono Trigger and whatnot. And
No,
like,
they
did it
were
very
just
well.
revisiting it in that one.
Yep. But, like, the dungeons are very, I would say, straightforward for the most part.
I don't know. The volcano dungeon's got the spiraling arms with the lava floor that does damage as you walk on it, and that's kind of rough. And it's, if you don't have the map foldouts that came with the game,
You're going to wander.
yeah, especially like Marsh Cave. I used to get lost in there because it's just
Fuck
so
that cave,
massive.
fuck that cave, fuck that cave, fuck that cave, fuck
Marsh
that cave.
Cave was the bane of many children's existence.
And take a step, battle.
Wait,
take a
is
step,
that the
battle.
Marsh Cave or the Earth Cave? I thought it was
Marsh Cave.
Marsh Cave.
Earth Cave was easier by
Earth Cave was easier by far.
Because at one stretch in the Marsh Cave, where every step you take, it's a fight.
Yeah.
And it's a slugfest, and at this point you're trying to conserve your spells for the boss fight. Because
Are you level 15? No.
No.
This is gonna suck.
There was one cave where the boss fight, because after using RPG Maker, I understand how random encounters and stuff can work, and scripted encounters can work.
Mm-hmm.
They had an encounter on a tile, because you got to open the treasure chest to get your item. The boss fight triggers when you step on that. If you backpedal out and go forward, you can re-trigger the boss fight, and if you felt like it, grind right there.
Yep, you could. I don't know why you would want to, because even if you're at level 16 at that point, that is a hell
That's
of
the
a fight.
Pisco Demon fight, and that's gonna suck.
Yeah. No, it was like 3 wizards.
Yeah,
No, I
it
thought
was
it was the-
they were supposed to be Pisco Demons.
Okay.
I thought it
In
was
the updated re-release, they were Pisco Demons.
All right. I don't know. They were the wizards with the squid heads.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
Pisco Demons, Mind Flayers.
Mind Flayers.
Mind flayers. Yeah.
Pisco Demon is the in-universe in
Yeah.
several games where they call
Then
it.
there's the other version of them called a Squid Larkin.
Yep.
But
You mean they passed up a chance to go squidlock?
yep.
Okay.
And this game has, I'm not going to call them mega bosses, but major bosses, which are the 4 fiends for the elements.
Which
Right.
is a trend that followed out throughout the series.
Super iconic bosses that kind of paved the way. The Lich appears in
The
Earth Cave.
a lot about them, or a lot of the subsequent games, and some of the spin-off things like Bravely Default has the Gigas Lich
Yep.
and all that. Then you went to the Gurgu Volcano and
Merilith.
Merilith.
although at the time
Kiri, because they had a licensing issue with D&D.
I thought it was just a nice shout out to like Indian mythology.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff, but-
actually it was a luck on the translation.
yep.
The Sunken Temple, you
Had
fight
the
the
Kraken.
Kraken in the air.
Release the
Tiamat.
Kraken.
Tiamat, Queen of Dragons.
And it all ends with a showdown with Chaos at the end of the game in the past.
There are a few other lesser memorable bosses along the way. We've
The
mentioned
elf.
The Dark Elf
Astos.
Astos.
We've mentioned the vampire in Earth Cave, who's actually a mini boss. Although it's the one dungeon in the game that you really have to revisit over and over again. Unfortunately,
The one...
Because you have to go and fight the vampire. Find out that, no, you actually haven't dealt with the plight on Melvin.
vampire-
Go back.
the vampire wasn't the one causing the Earth rot. No.
That was the Lich.
Then there's the 9 pirates. They're just generic pirates.
9 generic
And
pirates.
Beaky.
And Beaky, although he never actually fight Beaky. Garland is fairly iconic.
Yes. With his quote, I, Garland, will knock you all down. And I don't believe it was ever bothered to be fixed in the retranslation.
No, it's just because
It's iconic.
It's right up there with it's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
And Final Fantasy 2 is...
But and it was a nice little touch too in the Chaos Temple at the end of the game where you refight the 4 fiends.
Yep.
The only thing is they never bothered to change the stat blocks. They're the same.
Yeah.
That it kind of makes sense in that since 2,000 years ago in the past, the 4 fiends haven't been doing anything. They've
Yeah.
been sitting there going like, hey, we're destroying the crystals.
Yep.
What do we care?
But I don't know. From an RPG standpoint, the stats should be
Yeah.
better at the end of the
Like
game.
I could understand maybe like they atrophied over 2,000 years, or they were put to sleep and they've just recently woken up or something. But it was 1987.
Orcus
This
on
was
his throne.
experimental. You know,
And it paid off. It really did.
it did.
There are just some iconic moments like taking the rat's tail to Bahamut and getting your...
Although in this version it was not yet called the rat's tail; it was simply the tail. But it's
And-
absolutely the rat's tail from the
And then
Japanese legend.
getting the float stone to get the airship out of the desert. Like, a lot of this is just, it's really cool for the time. Like, it really was. And
Yeah, at this day and age, it's the kind of stuff you would expect out of this type of a game. Because it was all in this game.
Yeah. It set the bar, and it set it pretty freaking high.
And for as much as I bitch about technology being in fantasy games, it had the robots and stuff from the Flying Temple that Tiamat was in, which was actually... There was a shout-out to that in the later game Chrysalis that I love so much and that you guys won't play.
I've played Chrysalis.
Yeah.
Chrysalis is fantastic.
Another video on that sometime.
Yep, SNK put that one out.
Mm-hmm.
But, I really don't have, like, a lot of problems with, like, mixing technology and fantasy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when it just becomes overbearing, like Final Fantasy VIII.
The easiest one I can find is generally when it's lost technology of an ancient civilization.
Which is what it was in this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the robots are all rusty.
That, or one thing they've done later with the Final Fantasy installations is you will have an evil empire that they use Magitech, and it's giving them an advantage over everyone else.
One Final Fantasy in particular really calls back to this one. That's Final Fantasy IX. Because Garland is there, and the Four Fiends, and you revisit the Gurgu volcano. It's
a lot of
nice.
those little throwouts at the end.
It's very nice.
Shoutouts, not throwouts.
So
It's just got fun stuff in it that I hadn't seen in other games before. Like there's that one village where you can go, but you can't understand anybody until you find the Rosetta Stone tablet to translate everything.
Mm-hmm. And I like their version of the submarine as basically a barrel. Like, because back in the day, people would go over Niagara Falls in a barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it's a reference to the Civil War. Where
they actually used those
turtle,
to lay mines on battleships because you could not, with conventional weapons of the era, you could not damage them with a broadside blast. You had to actually hit them below the waterline.
Or some of the
actually,
wooden ships, they would have a drill equipped where they just go drill a hole in the hull.
Yep. Oh god, I love those books.
Yeah.
Weird super weapons of the Civil War.
But you're right. You didn't see much of this stuff, and this, like we said, paved the way for...
It established the tropes, if you will.
Yep.
For his death, it had to deal with the four elemental fiends, dealing with Japanese mythology of four being symbolic for death.
Yep. Well, that, the four Western elements are fire, wind, and water. Heart.
Go planet.
Avoiding the five for Omnio, though.
Yep.
Chaos would represent void.
Yes, he would.
And Chaos is unique in itself because you kill him in the future as Garland. And when you go 2,000 years in the past, he goes, "You kill me in the future."
It's because you created a
time loop, and this is you breaking the time loop.
I was never very clear on if Garland was actually Chaos or if Chaos was possessing Garland, because he had a history as like a knight and a noble guardsman who had fallen and been corrupted.
It's never really elaborated.
It's never really elaborated, but I would probably assume that Chaos
brought Garland back from the dead, or from the death spring.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most common theory I've read.
Okay.
So
there's that. We've talked about what the game is, so we need to... And that the story, such as it is, holds up very well. There's, silent protagonists, 4 of them in this case.
The game can be very rough, though, if you're not prepared.
And leveled.
Prepared.
Marsh Cave.
Some technical things.
Marsh Cave is the first thing that'll kick your ass.
You have to buy magic,
Yep.
and it's expensive. It's very expensive, and you have so many slots for that magic. So
I appreciate that, though. Again, it's a throwback to it being a D&D.
Yep, you have to pick and choose.
Because you would have to
what's
pay
going to be more
a mage to teach
beneficial
you a spell.
Yep.
And that's actually the benefit of the black belt, was that he didn't rely on equipment.
Right.
Yep.
He was the only one in the game that wasn't a money sink.
He becomes cost effective.
Still a glass cannon, though, so you're going to pay for him in resurrecting him.
No,
So
very well. I never had that issue. It was always the mages for me that went down.
I just always had the luck that he would eat a crit.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of what the game was. There are other aspects that go into making a good game, though, like the graphics. At the time, this game was gorgeous.
It's very pretty.
Absolutely. For an 8-bit game.
The battle backgrounds were very lacking. It was a black screen. You had your enemy on one side. you were separated by a column.
Yeah, you each were in a-
And
Which continued over Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 3, and then it was finally in FF4 where they had the level of technology where they didn't need it anymore.
yes.
Because even like Dragon Warrior had that split.
And you'll have a little bit of background at the top of the screen that reflects
To
the
reflect
environment
where
that
you're
you're in. But that's about it.
Nobuo Uematsu did the music for the game, and the music is great. My favorite pieces of music from this game are Corneria's Castle Corneria and the Chaos Temple. I really like that.
Those are good.
I like the sailing theme.
Sailing thing. I like the airship theme. The
I don't know. I think the volcano theme is the one that always stuck me.
Yeah. That's been remixed a ton.
And of course, everybody's heard the battle music and the victory music. Like everybody, if you're
And the overworld music.
Yep.
Just that one's iconic.
But
The title music that shows up whenever there's a text crawl.
the hero theme, as I've always called it.
just a ton of really good, really recognizable midis in this, basically.
Yes, and I'm glad that they chose to keep the victory music, and I'm glad that they kept like the intro, the dun 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 dun, and then it goes into its own thing.
Yeah, they evolve off of it.
Yep.
It's like one of the things I have the most YouTube listens to is the medley of all Final Fantasy battle music.
Like you're going to start with these 8 bars and then do what you will. So yeah, it sounds great. It looks pretty good. The story holds up. You can't say much about the controls. It's
It's a
responsive.
regular Nintendo game.
it's a menu-based
responsive.
RPG game. That's
If I push in a direction, he goes that direction. If I push the button, it does what I want it to do.
Yep.
There was some secrets in this game. There was a lot of secrets in general. But one where you could play a version of Othello, and they kept that in most of the versions.
Scrawback Salmon.
Yeah.
The brooms talk backwards.
Backwards name, Scrawback Salmon.
This is it's a damn fine game. At the end of the day,
Beyond being a fine game, it's just it's the grandfather of basically every RPG game that you've ever played. If this is the root to where it all came from, and for that alone, it's worth a playthrough.
even though Dragon Quest, I believe, did come out.
And there were some references in Snipes at Dragon Quest which they would localize differently with the
graves.
graveyard in Elfwin Town where here lies Link in one
For a shot at
localization.
Nintendo and Zelda.
And I forget what the actual hero's name in Dragon Quest was. Aeolith or something like that.
Yeah. And yeah, it may have come first, and it does have, or Dragon Quest Dragon Warrior has a comparable following in Japan. It just never caught on.
Whereas
this side
Final
of the
Fantasy
Pacific.
picked on in the United States, even though they thought that we were too stupid for installations 2 and 3.
Which is why we jumped straight to 3.
No, we jumped straight to 4, which is 2, and 3, or 6, which is 3, because once again, number 5 is too difficult for Americans, and fuck you, Japan.
We'll get into that.
And Final
timeline
Fantasy II,
next
hit me
time.
so I can take damage! Wait, what?
Oh god, Final Fantasy 2's level
It's a mess.
system.
But that's neither here nor there.
That's for another day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for me getting drunk and explaining how much that was a bad game.
I love Final Fantasy 1. I would rank it up there on my list of RPGs. I would say
Most
that I
people would.
recommend.
IGN said it was the 11th best NES game of all time. So
Yeah, I would recommend it to anyone. So
What are the other 10?
I don't know. I didn't look at the full list. So yeah.
Journey to Silas. That's number 2.
anyways, good night.
Good night. Good game.
Good gaming.
Hey guys, Vigorex here. If you like what you heard, go ahead and give us a little thumbs up with the like icon down below.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment. And if you want to watch a different video, click over here.
And always, as always, good night and good gaming.